Welcome to the NFL Kickoff. After a brief hiatus, we are back. I'm your host, Tom Zwiller, joined by my favorite co-host and my only co-host,
Tony Nametti.
Tony Nametti. So our job is to get you in the audience ready for the upcoming week of NFL action. We got a fun playoff roundup. The matchups are crazy. We're going to break them down one by one. We're going to give you our Super Bowl picks. And we're going to go over the scouting report of each team and tell you what we think of their playoff chances. Because let's face it, God did not create the seventh seeds equal in this one. The Eagles, there's a real chance. The Steelers, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them. But we'll get into that in a little bit. First, a quick word from the sponsors. NFL Kickoff is presented by DraftKings Sportsbooks. Guys, we did it. We made it through the longest season ever in NFL history. So why not celebrate, right? Maybe you think the 49ers have what it takes to upset the Dallas Cowboys, or maybe you're crazy like Tony and you think the Eagles are going to beat the Bucks because of a little bit of bad weather, or perhaps the Bills are going to finally beat Belichick in the playoffs. That one I don't feel great about, but thanks to our friends at DraftKings, you can bet on all of the Super Wildcard weekend games with a nice little bonus. Check out the link in the description to get a deposit match up to $1,000 through DraftKings and, of course, the Sports 2.0 network. So we finally did it, Tony. Like I was telling the audience, we made it through 18 weeks. It really did not feel like did the 18th week. I know it's 1 week longer, but it felt infinitely longer.
It certainly did made it feel like it was. It made it feel like it was like 3 or 4 weeks longer. Honestly, like it was so odd to see Scott Hansen on my red zone pop up for the 18th week, and it was awesome as a Packers fan because the week just did not matter, so I could watch football completely carefree. Amazing. Yeah, I've never had that where I've been able to watch a team just absolutely not care that I care about, at least. Just go into the last week and have it be a complete exhibition game. Awesome to watch. I would definitely recommend doing it. Again, Packers fans and Packers team, if you're out there listening to us, please do this every year.
Yeah, as a Panthers fan, I also got to watch my team in a week that didn't matter, and it kind of broke my soul. So it was a little different.
Yeah, I guess don't do it like that.
Yeah, a little bit different in how it didn't matter. But guys, we made it. So let's quickly pull up the bracket because it's a fun one. So you have the Titans. They secured the first seed at 12-5. I don't think anybody had the Titans making it this far when they lost Derrick Henry. I think people said maybe they'll win the South, but even the Colts could catch up. And look at that. The Colts are nowhere to be seen because of Jacksonville. So we have them at 12-5. Tony, I know they're your favorite pick as a Super Bowl caliber team. We then have the Chiefs at 12-5. They had the same record as the Titans, but as everybody knows, Derrick Henry threw one more passing touchdown than Patrick Mahomes in the Titans-Chiefs matchup that was earlier in the season. Next, we have the Bills. They won the AFC East. They're 11-6. We have the Bengals at 10-7. The team that I don't think anybody expected to win the AFC North. If you told me that the Bengals and the Steelers would be in the playoffs, I would have had the Bengals as the seventh seed, whereas the Steelers probably would have been the division champions. Then we have the Raiders at 10-7. Again, that Bengals, they were the division champions. The Raiders were not the division champions. Those were obviously the Chiefs back at 2. Patriots, they sit at 6, 10-7. Really good year for them considering that they had a rookie quarterback who'd never taken an NFL snap in a real game until week 1. And then at 7, you had the Steelers, who won on possibly what might have been the craziest end of season Sunday Night Football game ever. I mean, that Chargers Raiders game was just something else, right, Tony?
It was absolutely awesome. I loved seeing the next day Mike Tomlin waking up and being in the playoffs. He said he actually fell asleep halfway through the game. So even the one who cared about that game most couldn't get through it, which I thought was odd because it was a fantastic game. It's not like it was a bad game. Honestly, I know it's Big Ben's last year. I think we all know that. And as much as I would love to, I respect the guy. He's awesome, yada, yada, whatever. I would have loved to see a tie there. I'm not even going to lie. If it kicks the Steelers out of the playoffs, honestly, I think if I'm Big Ben, I don't want the playoffs. To be totally honest with you, I want to end my career on a win because they're going to get run over.
The way you did with, Big Ben doing the lap around, I believe it's Hines, is he kind of got like a walk-off standing ovation.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I think if you're a competitor, you definitely want to go and give it another shot in the playoffs. Like, you believe in yourself, you believe in your team and your defense. And
he doesn't, though.
I know that. Wait, didn't he say something about the fact that like people are counting them out, but he's just here to have fun?
Yeah, that's not something that I expect to hear from somebody who's confident in their team and thinks that they're actually going to win. To go out and just be like, yeah, we're probably the worst team in here. We're just going to go have fun in what's probably our last game. Like, that's how I took it. How he said that. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that he says that if he's that confident that they're going to win.
I took it a little bit differently. I took it as to say people don't believe in us and think we're the worst team here by far, but I believe that we can win and let's go have fun. But anyway, yeah. So not a lot of people are giving the Steelers a whole lot of credit. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But then we had the Packers as the first seed in the NFC. They went 13-4. Probably could have gone 14-3, but they decided to rest Aaron Rodgers against the Lions in the second half. You then have the 13-4 Buccaneers. They won the NFC South, but they won the NFC South. A little bit delayed. The Saints kind of gave them a little bit of a scare there earlier on in the season. Then we have the Cowboys, 12-5. It's a really good 12-5 considering that everybody's been saying, "Oh my God, the Cowboys, they're slumping. The earth is falling in Dallas." Or I guess the sky's falling. I don't know if the earth falls. Does the earth fall? I don't know. Then the Rams at 12-5. They won the NFC West. They did it in possibly what might be my favorite way that an NFC West team has ever won a division ever, was by losing in overtime to the 49ers. But simultaneously, the Cardinals lost to the Seahawks. So that I found that immensely hilarious. And speaking of the Cardinals, they're at 5. So we'll get an NFC West matchup. A lot of divisional games, which is kind of crazy. No, I guess not a lot, too. But then we have the Cowboys and the 49ers. So the 49ers are at 6. Honestly, 10-7, given how kind of rocky their season was, I think that they're happy to have made the playoffs. And they have the Eagles at 7, the team that nobody really counted on, Nick Sirianni. He's the only rookie coach to get his team into the playoffs at 9-8. Definitely an underdog. So, Tony, let's break it down. Do you want to do our bracket picks, or do you want to go and do the individual teams' scouting reports first?
Let's go ahead and do bracket picks, and let's start with Zelo because I think the Zelo is extremely interesting. So I want to start with them.
Yeah, no, we can definitely kick it off with Zelo. So the important thing to note about Zelo is one that I get a little bit too defensive of it. I joke, not really. But Zelo reacts differently to games now than it will about an hour before game time when we really know who's in and who's out for respective games. So I would anticipate, like, for the Bengals-Titans matchup where it has the Bengals beating the Titans, that will change when Derrick Henry eventually comes off of IR, but it's technically not official. It's still up in the air. But let's go through it. So Bills-Patriots is essentially a toss-up for the model. Right now, it's sort of giving the Bills the edge because of home field advantage, which I don't think is crazy because, the last time the Bills-Patriots played at Buffalo, it was a really crazy weather adverse game. The Patriots won, as we kind of is notably one of the more notable games because it was so weird. Mac Jones threw, I think, 3 passes. Is that right, Tony?
I believe so. And completed 2 of them.
Yeah, he completed 2, threw 3, and basically just handed the ball off the rest of the game.
Yep.
But the Bills had a lot of red zone opportunities that they just failed to convert on that I think in better weather, they probably are kicking field goals and probably would have made some of those field goals, but because of how bad the weather is, they're not. So I think that's why the model is picking the Bills here.
I will say, quick interjection here. There was actually this morning, I was watching the Pat McAfee show, and they were talking about how there are actually still Bills Patriots tickets available at Bills home, obviously, for as low as $30, and people just aren't buying them. The weather's supposed to be really bad, so I know it's the Bills home field advantage, but do you think we could see a Rams-Niners game where Niners fans actually 75-25 outgo the Rams fans at home? Do you think Patriots fans are going to take advantage of that? Because I feel like, it's Bills Mafia. I'm extremely surprised that there are any tickets left, being that the Bills haven't had a home game for the playoffs in so long. But do you think Patriots fans take advantage of that and maybe make it into more of a Patriots kind of home game?
I don't think that it'll be 75-25 because that's kind of unique, I think, to the Los Angeles sports fan. But I think that you're right that maybe it'll be closer to 63-33, 66-33 or something, or 70-30, so that there is definitely a Patriots presence felt. But yeah, no, that's interesting. I would buy those tickets right now. If
100%. I looked at plane tickets to see if I could get there by tomorrow or Sunday, whenever they're playing. That'd be electric.
Yeah, I don't know how you don't go. But let's move to the next matchup. So it's Bengals-Raiders. The Raiders are kind of an underdog team that I don't think anybody actually thought would make it in the playoffs, of course, when John Gruden was fired because of how, the crazy rocky season they've had. Henry Ruggs III, getting involved with that DUI. So it's just been a rocky season. And I'm happy for the Raiders. The model is not happy for the Raiders, and it has the Bengals as a firm favorite as of right now. And then the Chiefs-Steelers, that's the most confident the model is in one matchup right now, and it'll be a Chiefs blowout. In fact, has the Chiefs beating the spread for those of you looking to bet on the spread. If we flip over the NFC, Cowboys 49ers closer than I thought it would be given how good the Cowboys are. But I think that the model is just a little bit it's not a huge fan of Jimmy G, I guess let's put it that way. Not a huge fan of Jimmy G. So it has the Cowboys advancing over the 49ers, and then as the Rams slightly advancing over the Cardinals. I think that it's very largely dependent on DeAndre Hopkins. That's a big one for the model. He's valued at about 80 points, so an incredibly valuable wide receiver. And then Buccaneers Eagles. It's the second most confident of a matchup the model is confident in. It has the Bucs advancing pretty favorably in that one. I know, Tony, you disagree on that one. We'll get to your bracket in just a second. As I explained, Bengals Titans, kind of a weird game that for the model to take the Bengals. I guess they are the 4th seed, so I guess it's not that crazy. But as soon as Derrick Henry comes back, I anticipate the model will flip and have the Titans as the favorite to come out of the AFC. Actually, next matchup, Chiefs Bills. It has the Chiefs as the favorite, which feels crazy because consider the last time we saw these two teams on the field at the same time, it was an absolute just dumpster fire for the Chiefs, and sky was falling in Kansas City for that one. But the Chiefs have definitely turned it around since then. Next, we have Rams Packers. I know, Tony, you're going to hate this one. The model is taking the Rams. It actually has the Rams, of course, winning the Super Bowl. As was its earlier season prediction. It's kind of sticking with it. And then next it has the Cowboys advancing over the Buccaneers. So it'll be the Cowboys hosting the NFC Championship, but falling short to the Rams, while the Chiefs host the Bengals and the Chiefs advance to the Super Bowl. Rams-Chiefs, it's the matchup we've wanted since 2018, but the Rams do get the win.
Interesting. I can't say I don't like it because obviously one of our very first offseason Super Bowl predictions once we heard about the Stafford trade to the Rams was actually Rams Super Bowl. So I can't say that I'm disappointed in the model for going with that pick as well.
Yeah, no, it's sticking with it. Now, I know you sticked with what at the time was kind of, I don't want to say controversial because we aren't famous enough to be controversial.
Yep.
But a unique pick, a hot take. So
Yep.
You want to deliver your hot take to the people?
My hot take before the season started, once I think I said it as soon as Julio was traded, was Titans Packers in the Super Bowl. And both seeing as they are both the 1 seeds of their respective conferences, I am actually very confident in that pick. I'm sticking with it. I wavered on it a little bit once Derrick Henry went down, but it was within another week or two, I wrote an article on how I was going to actually stick with it and how I was going to go with it. It was not a well-received article by a lot of people. A lot of people said, "Oh, you're crazy. This is impossible. Derrick Henry is that team." And here we are. So haters going to hate,
Indeed.
and I'm still hopefully right.
Yeah, no, that Titans defense is absolutely terrifying. And if you couple that Titans defense with a good run game, which they haven't had basically forever, that team is kind of terrifying.
Yep.
So what was your first round pick, Tony?
Let's see. Let me pull up my bracket here. So first round, I actually had a couple upsets here. I think I'm going to take, first of all, we'll start in the AFC. I'm going to take the Patriots over the Bills. I think that both teams are extremely good. The one thing I can never do in good conscience is bet against Bill Belichick in the playoffs. And I do think that the only thing that could possibly take the Patriots down is Mac Jones. He's young, he's inexperienced, and let's be honest, as great of a rookie year as he looks to have had, he has relied on that defense quite a lot throughout these games. And once you start getting into these playoff games against these really, really good teams, yeah, sure, you're going to win. You're going to have a better shot of winning if you have a great defense like they do, but you need a pretty good offense because all these teams, they're going to start having great defenses as well. So I think that Mac's inexperience is going to stop them from getting very far to the Super Bowl or like the championship game. I think the second round, the divisional round, is their ceiling. But I do think that they can make it there and they can beat the Bills. Second game, I have Bengals Raiders. I'm going to take Bengals there. I'm not very confident in the Raiders. I actually think the Raiders are the worst team in the playoffs this year. I think they're worse than the Steelers. Marginally, it's very arguable. So I'm going to take that. Next up, Chiefs Steelers. I'm going to go with everybody else here. Chiefs are going to roll them over. I'm going to go with the model and beating them by the spread as well. On the NFC side, 49ers Cowboys. I'm taking the Cowboys. I do think that could be a sneaky game. The Niners could actually win this. The Niners getting right at the right time. Cowboys have been a little off from how they were at the beginning of the season with that amazing offense, but I believe in Dak. I think they're going to get it going at the right time, and I think they can at the very least beat the Niners. Cardinals, Rams. I'm going to take the Rams. I think it'll be close. Cardinals are an underwhelming team from how we saw them starting off. Once they lost to the Packers in that Week 8 matchup, I believe it was.
Week 8, yeah.
Yeah, Week 8. They just haven't quite been the same team. Yes, they have had injuries, but let's be honest, everybody's had injuries, so I don't really give as much credit to that excuse this year as I normally would. So I do think that the Cardinals underwhelming. Rams have been also rather underwhelming, but they can beat the Cardinals. Buccaneers, Eagles. This is my hottest take of the playoffs. I'm going to take the Eagles here. Yes, it is a home game for Tampa. But according to weather reports, it is going to be extremely rainy. It's going to be extremely windy. That leads to running the ball. And who has the best run offense in the NFL? The Philadelphia Eagles. So I think it's going to be extremely hot take. We'll see how it ages. It could age absolutely terribly. I'm not
It will.
entirely confident in it, but I am going to take the Eagles.
Yeah, no, it will. By DVOA, Tampa Bay ranks 4th in the run, while Philadelphia is 3rd. So Philadelphia does have a very good running game, but I think Tampa Bay can stand up to the challenge.
We'll see. I know Tampa Bay is getting quite a few pieces back at the right time. So maybe this team does pull through and absolutely wipes the table with these guys. We'll see. But I'm going to stick with it.
Honestly, if anything, if I'm a Tampa Bay fan, I'm actually more worried about the passing game because of the lack of weapons than I think I am the run game, because that offensive line is still pretty healthy.
That is true. They don't really have, Tampa Bay is obviously so hurt.
The Antonio Brown controversy too. I mean, they really have Gronk. They have Gronk if Gronk is healthy.
Pretty much.
That's the best offensive weapon they have.
Which, hey, that's a heck of a weapon you got there. But
indeed,
it is only one real true weapon that I think they have that can kind of be a table turner, if you will. But I am going to stick with the Eagles as of right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I respect the take. I respect, going for it. If you see something, go for it, right?
Yep.
Definitely don't agree, though. All right, so how about Cowboys 49ers? Did you have that one?
The Cowboys 49ers. I had the Cowboys.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. I think that one is a very good game, though. That's the one I think I might be most excited for on the NFC side of the bracket.
I do think that's the one that I could see the biggest upset, if you will, like the 3 seed versus the 6 seed, but I feel like it's going to be way closer than that. This is
wouldn't the biggest upset you can see is the 2 and the 7?
Well, okay, I guess this is the most realistic upset.
Okay.
My Eagles take is the hot take. That's the one that's if it's right, it'd be cool. This one's more like I can legitimately see the Niners winning this. I could legitimately see the Cowboys winning this.
It's all on the offense, the Cowboys offense.
Yep.
And speaking of offense, Rams Cardinals?
Rams Cardinals, I did have Rams.
Okay. So that sets up what in the next round for you?
So that's going to set up on the AFC side, we're going to have the 6-seeded Patriots play the 1-seed Titans. This is where I see the Patriots finally biting the bullet. I think Mac Jones' experience, if anything, is going to be the one thing that separates this team. I think Tannehill is an underrated quarterback, and at this point, I do think they should have Derrick Henry either coming back or very, very close. So we'll see. I do believe in that defense to stop the Patriots offense, and the Patriots defense is awesome. Don't get me wrong, but I do think the Titans can put up enough points to win this game. Next up, we have Bengals at Chiefs. As much as I love me some Joey Burrow and Jamar Chase action, I don't think that offense is going to be quite as explosive as the Chiefs offense. I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be fireworks, but I do think the Chiefs pull that one out. On the NFC side, we're going to have the 1-seed Packers. They're going to be playing the 7-seed Eagles. This is going to be a fun game to watch. The Packers defense is finally stopping the run, held Dalvin Cook in that Vikings game a couple weeks ago to 15 total yards throughout the game. He was averaging 1.5 yards per carry. So with Zadarius Smith coming back, Jair Alexander, all these other pieces, Whitney Merciless is a surprise. He's actually going to be coming back as well. So I do think that they're going to be kind of getting healthy and cleaning up the defense in the right ways at the right times. They should be able to pull that game out pretty easily. And then finally, we have Rams-Cowboys. I'm going to take the Cowboys here. I think the Cowboys are going to use the Niners as a get-right game. They're going to get a little bit of momentum going through the playoffs, and then they're going to continue that momentum through the Rams, and it's going to take them to the NFC Championship against the Packers at Lambeau in what I think will be the game of the year.
So the one question I do have for your next round, so obviously you're a Packers fan, you never try to hide that.
Nope.
So if you're the Packers, your rush DVOA, defensively speaking, is 28th in the league.
Yep.
Eagles, their rush game, 3rd in the league. Does that not concern you a little bit at all, especially with adverse weather conditions in Lambeau?
Well, I think the adverse weather conditions are, if we play Philadelphia, Philadelphia is used to some bad weather. Green Bay is used to some bad weather. So I think if anything, if it's a lot of snow and wind, it could help the Packers slightly. It's mostly going to be a pretty null like advantage for both sides. Like both teams are used to it in some aspects. So I think that yes, the run game is concerning, but that's over the entire year that you're looking at your stats, right?
Yeah,
Like over
DVO
the
would be
whole
over
year.
the year.
Yeah. So I
Mhm.
think that we're getting healthy, so that's going to help us tremendously. And I also strongly believe in momentum. So if we, like looking at the past 2 or 3 weeks, we've been a whole lot better than we were in weeks, 5 through 12 or whatever. So I believe that we are starting to get right at the right time. Kind of like how Zelo knocks the Packers so much for that Saints game, even though that Saints game is clearly an outlier. There was another, uh, I think the game against the Chiefs where Rodgers was out. That was another bad game. But I think we've gotten the right momentum at the right time, and I think that that's going to help us really clean it up against the Eagles, or if we play the Bucks or whoever it might be. I guess at that point it'd be the Rams, wouldn't it? Because they're the lower seed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I definitely, if I were a Packers fan, and if that matchup does come true, that's the one thing I think that could potentially tip the scales in favor of Philadelphia, which sounds crazy, a 7th seed making the NFC Championship. I don't think it'll happen, but
That's how the
that
Packers
is
won the Super Bowl the last time. We were the wild card. I don't know
no,
if we were the 7th seed, but we were the wild card.
you couldn't have been the 7th seed, but yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to your NFC championships. You said that the Cowboys Packers game of the year. I'm 100% here for that.
Yep.
I've had these two teams on a somewhat of a collision course for pretty much the entire season. Once the two emerged as of really the cream of the crop of the NFC. Who do you have winning that?
I have the Packers winning that, but I do think it's going to be a phenomenal game. I think both offenses are going to be explosive. I think that at this point, the Cowboys will have it figured out. Both defenses are going to be playing extremely well. I think that a couple things that are going to be real table turners for the Packers. Devontae Adams, here, clip it and ship it right now. He is going to cook Trevon Diggs. Trevon Diggs will be on Devontae Adams, but I'm just going to say it right now. Trevon Diggs is a mediocre to good cornerback.
No,
He is a
okay,
tremendous ball hawk. Tremendous, the best in the league. But
he's
as
the
a
Jameis
cover corner,
Winston.
yeah, he is. That is the perfect thing for him. It's either an interception or he's giving up a touchdown every time. And with Rodgers' accuracy and Devontae Adams route running, there's no way Trevon Diggs gets a pick. There's no way he stops. I bet you it's like a Jalen Ramsey thing where Devontae Adams goes like 7 of 7 for 140 yards or something ridiculous, 2 touchdowns or something. And the second thing that I think is going to be the biggest table turner for the entire team is the weather. Cowboys are a dome team. Not only are they a dome team, they're a dome team in Texas. That is extremely bad for you when you're coming up as pretty much as north as it gets, and you're playing in the snow and the wind, and it's probably going to be, with wind chill in the negatives. It's just a bad look. So I think that, when Rodgers pulls that turtleneck out, it's game over.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that the weather is going to factor in there, especially when the Cowboys offense has been at best this season, incredibly dominant, but at worst a liability for the team as a whole. So how about the AFC?
AFC, I have Chiefs Titans, the 1 and the 2 seed. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. At this point, barring any setbacks, Derrick Henry should definitely be back. And what's going to be awesome is he's going to be back on fresh legs. So that is like the most valuable thing you could possibly have is Derrick Henry after, he's had some time to play. So it's not like he's, had an entire offseason, but he has been out a couple weeks. So he's healthy again. Hopefully he'll be coming out at 100%, which he's projected to, I think. So I do think that that's going to be a huge table turner. It's going to be awesome to watch him run all around the Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense has certainly stepped up. They were the worst defense in the league at the beginning of the season for those first couple weeks, but they've cemented themselves in the end as a top 10 defense somehow. Phenomenal turnaround. Their weakness is the pass game. They do give up in terms of rankings. They're 27th in pass yards allowed, and they are also 28th in sacks. So they're not going to be able to pressure Tannehill that much. They're not going to be able to break into the backfield. And when you have Derrick Henry running back there, you need to get into the backfield as quick as you can.
part of me does wonder with that Chiefs off defense being so bad against the pass, how much of that was the start of the season really hurting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like with the Packers. So that's an interesting point. And then obviously, let's get to your Super Bowl. It's Titans Packers. There's no way you didn't pick the Packers, right?
I picked the Packers at this point. Even if I thought the Titans would win, I have to pick the Packers. I'm pretty sure I'm contractually obligated as a stockholder, so I do believe that the Packers are the better team, though. I mean, if the Packers do make it to the Super Bowl, how do they not win? You know, all the drama in the offseason with Rodgers leaving, like, there's no way they don't at that point. It's like the Michael Jordan kind of story, you know, the last dance or whatever. It would be the cherry on top of the perfect season for them. So I do think that they win that game. That team's going to be playing their heart out for Rodgers, if nothing else. They want to get back to the Super Bowl. That the past 5 years of losing NFC Championship games has hurt this team. They will be coming with a vengeance. I do think the Titans are a phenomenal team. I think it'll be a good game. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout or anything, but I do think the Packers win this.
No, absolutely. I think if they can get there, right? That's like the one thing that is kind of like a stigma on Rodgers' excellent career is that NFC Championship record. So only if they can get there, they can just get there. I believe in them. But quickly, I do want to actually jump back to something. So you're talking about how valuable Derrick Henry is. So obviously we can look at Jonathan Taylor. He's had an outstanding season. He had 332 attempts for 1,811 yards, 18 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, of course, played 8 games, so a little under half. He had 219 attempts, though, 937 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Currently, Zelo has Henry as the most valuable pure running back, and Taylor is in second. 192 for Derrick Henry and 185 for Jonathan Taylor. Do you agree with that? Do you think that Derrick Henry is the more valuable back?
That is a great question. More valuable? Okay, we've debated this like every day for the past 3 weeks. What are we talking?
Not my definition of value.
Okay, my definition. Okay.
If it was my definition, it's a slam dunk on who it is.
Yeah. My definition, I would have to go Derrick Henry. I do agree with the model. I don't think that it is by a wide margin. I think it's about what Zelo has it at. Like, it's a significant enough kind of gap between them to notice it, but it's not a significant enough gap for it to be like, oh, this guy's so much better than this guy. They're both phenomenal backs. They are 1 and 2 in the league. I don't care which way you put them, as long as they are 1 and 2. So I do think that Derrick Henry is slightly more valuable to his team than Jonathan Taylor in my definition.
All right, let's do my playoff bracket really quick, and then we'll move down to our specific analysis of each team. So I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible because it's the third bracket you guys in the audience are listening to, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to hear a third bracket. But we'll get through it really quick. Okay, so I had the Bills beating the Patriots in a really close one. It'll be feisty, but Josh Allen is the difference maker, as we saw the last time these two teams faced. Bengals, Raiders. I have the Bengals. I think that the Raiders are a good team, but I just think that the Bengals offense is going to be overwhelming. Chiefs, Steelers. Yeah, it's the Chiefs easily. No problem. No questions asked, in my opinion. These two teams played earlier. It was a blowout for the Chiefs. It's going to be a blowout again. Chiefs, Bills is my AFC matchup. So I have the Chiefs actually beating the Bills. I think that the Chiefs have turned into a really good team. They're sound on both sides of the ball. Patrick Mahomes can just not turn over the ball. I think that they can win this one pretty comfortably. But I do know that the Bills are good, but I also think they've kind of stocked up points against bad teams. So it's kind of why I don't trust the Bills as much. Then we have Titans, Bengals. I'm going to take the Titans because of that offense, like we talked about. Ryan Tannehill is incredibly underrated. I think he's going to be able to expose a bad Bengals passing defense. So that leaves us with Chiefs, Titans. I'm going to take the Chiefs, which feels crazy to say, but I just believe in Patrick Mahomes. I believe in the fact that he can get the Chiefs back to a third Super Bowl. Let's quickly go over to the NFC side of the bracket. I am not like Tony. I am definitely taking the Buccaneers over the Eagles. I'm going to take the Rams over the Cardinals. I think that DeAndre Hopkins, as great as he is going to be either limited or, completely miss portions of the game with an injury. He's been kind of in and out. And the last time we saw these two teams play, it looked like the Rams were the much better team on both sides of the ball. Then we have Cowboys, 49ers. I'm taking the Cowboys. I definitely can see the 49ers winning, but I trust in the Cowboys defense. And I think that the Cowboys offense can do just enough to get them there. Packers, Rams would be the next NFC matchup. I am taking the Packers. Last time these two teams played, it was at Lambeau. The Packers just wiped the floor with the Rams, so I see no reason to suggest it would happen otherwise. Then I have Cowboys, Buccaneers. These two teams played in week 1 to open the NFL season, and I think it's fitting that the Cowboys opened the Buccaneers defense, and they will close the Buccaneers defense. It's the Cowboys. And I think that they have it'll be a great mark of how they've progressed as a team over the course of the season. Cowboys, Packers at Lambeau for the NFC Championship, the game of games, but the Packers are going to win this one. I think that they are going to find a way to, like Tony said, Trevon Diggs, great defensive player, but I have a feeling that Rodgers is going to be able to expose him. We saw it in the Patriots game where Diggs has an interception that really helped the Cowboys, and then he gives up an incredibly long touchdown that helps the opposition. So I think he's boom or bust, and I have him busting against Rodgers. The man doesn't know the meaning of the word interception. We get to the championship. It's Packers Chiefs. It's the Super Bowl that I wanted last year that I thought was going to happen. I'm going to stick with it. I just see no reason to doubt either one of these teams, and I have a feeling that it'll be a fantastic Super Bowl, but I am giving it to the Chiefs just because I don't want to have two brackets that pick the Packers.
Fair enough.
Yeah, just a little bit of variety is the spice of life,
I like it. You definitely took. If I was a betting man, then, and if I had to bet on which bracket I think has the highest chance of coming true, I think I'd bet on yours. I took a couple more major underdogs.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think Bucks Eagles is a big underdog, but hey, if it works, it works, right?
I will die on this hill. I've survived this year on hot takes.
You may actually die on the hill.
I might.
Okay. So let's do our path to the playoffs for super mega ultra wildcard weekend. I feel like they add on a new word. So It's just wildcard weekend. Now it's super wildcard weekend. I don't really know what's changed. I think it just should be wildcard weekend, but I digress. So I'm going to call it super mega ultra wildcard weekend. But let's look at the Packers. So they're obviously the number one team in the NFC North and the NFC as a whole, finishing at 13-4. Like I said earlier, it really could have been 14-3. So, Tony, this is your team. What's their ceiling as a team? I think it's the Super Bowl, clearly.
Yeah, I think absolutely the Super Bowl. I think a lot would have to go wrong for them to not get there. This is, I think, the best team that we've had in quite a number of years, which is saying something since we've been to the NFC Championship a number of times now. I think this is a team that can get it done, which I've said last year and the year before that and probably the year before that. So we'll see.
Now, I picked their weakness because I did the NFC. I picked their weakness as special teams. By DVOA, they are the worst special teams unit in the NFL, and it's not even close. So, it's hurt the Packers, but it's never damaged them very badly, right? Like, it's made games like against the Bears is the best example I can think of. Games that probably shouldn't have been close, a little bit closer than the Packers would like them to be. So I think it could absolutely pop up at the worst possible time if the Packers are unlucky. So
yeah, I will say against the Vikings, for those of you that don't know, I actually went to the Packers-Vikings game at Lambeau a couple weeks ago. It's been a couple weeks since we've done the show. We actually thought about doing a show from Lambeau. That would have been really cool. We didn't end up doing it. But we actually did reveal a new kick returner or punt returner in that game. It was a guy I think we signed from the Bears, I want to say. He actually did phenomenal. He hasn't muffed anything. He hasn't dropped anything. He's been very elusive. So I think that he is kind of the first step towards turning around our special teams. Other than that, I don't normally call for the firing of a coach, especially for my own team. I will say our special teams coach needs to go. He has been bad for the past as long as he's been, it's been bad every year. We've always been bottom 15, most of the time bottom 10 in the league. It just hasn't really damaged us because we're usually so far ahead in offense and defense. But this is the year where it's really starting to show, once we are the worst of the worst, we're giving up a ridiculous amount of stuff. And I think this is the year that we finally just need to get a new guy.
Yeah, no, especially if it comes back to haunt you guys, that would be, the worst possible outcome. Would if it came back to kind of bite you guys.
Yeah.
So the floor, it's the divisional round because, of course, they have to bye. Mm-hmm. But I seriously doubt that happens, right? Theoretically, it can happen, but I don't think that happens. What would you put the probability at that they don't even make it past the divisional round?
Probably they don't make it past the divisional round. I mean, if I scroll back up to the brackets here.
So they would likely, I think, play the Rams is kind of what we both agreed on, is that that would be the team, although you do have them playing the Eagles.
Yeah.
So 2 out of 3 of them have them playing the Rams.
If they play the Eagles, I think that's a clean sweep, no problem. If they play the Rams, I think that 85% of the time we win that game.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so path to the Super Bowl, it's obviously very clear. The NFC runs through Lambeau.
Yep.
Honestly, their path really is just don't shoot themselves in the foot with special teams units. I trust the other 2 sides of the ball with the exception of the run for the Packers defense. I have a lot of faith in that team as a whole. So I am just a little bit nervous about that special teams unit. Now let's go on to the Buccaneers. So let's go over their path to the Super Bowl. So they obviously, assuming they win both their first game, they would then have home field advantage for the second game, and theoretically would go on the road to Lambeau if the Packers make it that far. If they don't, then they would actually host the rest of the tournament. But what would you say are the chances that they make it to the NFC Championship? I know that you have them losing in your bracket, but you've also said that that is a hot take, kind of done for that hot take effect. So where would you put the odds of them making it to the championship?
The odds of them making it to the championship, I think, are pretty good. They are getting healthy. I think if they weren't getting their pieces back, I'd say it's a pretty low percentage because I think that team's extremely hurt. But they are starting to get their guys back. I think I'd put it at like maybe 30-40% that they can make it all the way to the NFC Championship. Not all the way to the Super Bowl, but all the way to the NFC Championship.
Okay, so now I know you kind of touched on the health, and this is something I really struggled with when I was filling out the scouting report. By DVOA, the Buccaneers also have the Achilles heel of special teams units. Their unit actually ranks 27th in the NFL. But I'm definitely going to say depth and injury. I don't think that the Buccaneers, like we talked about earlier, besides Gronk, have a super strong passing game. And I know Tom Brady can definitely work with what he's given, but it could definitely be a heel if the team gets behind early because their defense is banged up and they have to start kind of scoring. I think that the strategy, if you're Tampa Bay, is to try to possess the ball and run the ball and let your defense shut down the other side.
Yeah, which that's such a tall order because that's the problem, right? They don't have many receiving weapons, which, okay, fine. Maybe you say, it's the Bucs, it's Tom Brady. They'll make it work somehow. And maybe that is true. But at the end of the day, the Packers have the better receiving core. They're going to be throwing the ball more. The Bucs are probably going to be running the ball more. At a certain point, passing the ball in today's league is going to outpace running the ball. It's going to be more efficient. So I think if anything, it's just a game of percentages. You're going to have more chunk plays on passing. You're going to give up more yards when the other team's passing generally, especially that their secondary is good, not phenomenal. But then again, they became phenomenal this time last year. Once they got into the playoffs, they were pretty bad throughout the regular season. So who knows what'll happen. But I do think that, you got MVP Rodgers, you got Devontae Adams, who's the highest rated wide receiver in the NFL by Pro Football Focus for the second year in a row. You got deep receiving core for the Packers.
How did we get onto the Packers?
Well, because
where was this earlier?
Where was what earlier?
Well, we were doing the Packers scouting report.
Well, okay. You know what? You said Buccaneers versus Packers. I got that deep-seated urge to just hate them because of last year.
Oh, okay. So let's move on to the Cowboys. Ceiling for the Buccaneers, obviously the Super Bowl. Floor is the divisional round, in my opinion. I'm going to be incredibly surprised if they lose to the Eagles. I'm firm on the Buccaneers beating the Eagles.
Yeah, I can agree with that, realistically.
Yeah, realistically. But hey, hot takes, right?
Hope it
happens for you.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go to the Cowboys. So assuming they win against the 49ers, I think that they would have to go, likely speaking, they would have to go on the road at Tampa Bay or Lambeau. So I don't like the odds already. That's kind of why I think that their floor is the divisional round. I definitely think they can get beat in the wild card round, but I think that their floor is more the divisional round. Super Bowl, I would argue, is the ceiling. Did you agree on that ceiling for them?
I absolutely agree. I think this is the most complete Cowboys team we've seen in many years. I think that, there's always the joke of Cowboys fans saying every year, this is our year. I think this actually might be their year. I could very realistically see it. I would not be surprised if they make it to the Super Bowl. I think that that's a good ceiling to have for them. Now,
fatal flaw, we kind of tried to pick one. And it feels really hard to pick one for the Cowboys because they are such a complete team.
Yep.
You and I have been saying off of air that we think they may be the most complete team in the league.
Yep.
But I think their offense is their flaw because just how prone it is to slumping against good teams. Obviously, Dak had a really good Week 18 to close out the season, but that was also against the backup Eagles defense.
Yep.
He's had good games against the Washington football team's defense, but that's not a very good defense. So I think that's the offense. I think that we could see the 49ers start running the ball, trying to possess the ball, and letting their defense try to frustrate the Cowboys. And that might honestly be a winning formula.
Yeah, we could see another, Shanahan masterclass.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If it would come from anyone on this side in this round on the bracket, I think it would be
It would
Shanahan.
be Shanahan.
So let's talk about another potential masterclass candidate, and that's Sean McVay. So the Rams are going to have home field advantage in this first round of the playoffs, but I don't think the Cardinals really care about that because that is where they got their win in the series against the Rams was at SoFi. So what would you put their fatal flaw as, Tony? Because for me, it's Matthew Stafford.
I agree. I think the turnovers are a little too much. Now, I know a lot of people talk about pick sixes, and pick sixes are an interesting thing for me because personally, I don't think pick sixes are that bad. I think a pick six is an unlucky interception. I don't think it's like skill wise any worse of a decision to throw a pick six as opposed to just a normal interception. I think it's just luck of who's where and if they can tackle him in the right time. So I think that, he's thrown a league high pick six rate or whatever it is. I don't knock him too much for that. But to get to that rate, you have to throw a lot of interceptions, just mathematically. So I do think that if he, dials in the accuracy that we all know he has, my take is that he was Patrick Mahomes before Patrick Mahomes. He was throwing those no-look passes. He was making those awesome throws. It was just because he was in Detroit that the media never really talked about it. So I think that if we see that Matthew Stafford, this is an extremely good team. But we've seen a lot of turnovers from him this year, and that could be their downfall.
No, we absolutely have. So the Rams rank second in pass protection by PFF and then first by ESPN. So Stafford should have a clean pocket conceivably in these games. But when he is pressured, like against the Titans, where they have that really good front, he has no problem throwing interceptions. He has 17 on the year, which I believe is league high, or relatively close to it.
I think it's tied with Lawrence for league high.
Okay. And then he has 8 coming in the last 4 games, and it cost them against the 49ers, and it almost cost them against the Ravens too. So Stafford is an asset, but he can also be the downfall of this team just as much as about anybody else.
Absolutely.
And so then ceiling floor, I'm putting their ceiling, of course, at the Super Bowl. It has to be by the fact that they sent all those first round picks away. I think their floor is the wild card round, though, much like kind of with the Cowboys. Like you expect them to advance, but they can absolutely lose in this wild card round to a good team in the Cardinals.
Absolutely, I agree.
So speaking of the Cardinals, they are the 5th seed, so they're up next. So the Cardinals are going to likely be on the road for the entirety of the playoffs. It would take some combination of the Eagles winning and then also the 49ers winning and the Cardinals winning for them to be on the road somehow. So that would be a small miracle, I think. But I don't think the Cardinals worry about that because a fun fact, the Cardinals were 8-1 on the road and 3-5 at home, which is just kind of crazy to think about. Is home field advantage dead? I don't know. The Cardinals seem to think so, though. So I don't think they mind being on the road as much, but that is their path. It's not a particularly pleasant path, I don't think, because of being on the road. So what would you put the fatal flaw of this team as?
I just think this team is not quite as good as we thought they were. Like they came out insanely strong. They had, I forget what the win streak was, 7-0?
7, yeah, I made it 7.
7-0. Okay. I think with the injuries, Kyler Murray, obviously DeAndre Hopkins, of course, have really hurt this team more than even I thought it would. I know that, perfect example, your Panthers crushed them, and I forget which week it was, but absolutely demolished the Cardinals. It was, I think every person in the world lost that bet. But I just think that this team, they haven't looked like they were in the first half of the season, right? Like they've just looked off. Everybody's looked one step away and everybody's looked just a little bit too slow. And it's really resulted in this team not being able to do a lot on offense and defense.
I was listening to the Mina Kimes show featuring Lenny, and one thing they touched about the Cardinals is that they keep their packages very simplified because with that air raid offense, you're trying to go up tempo and fast and trying to pass rapidly. And so they've actually become kind of predictable if you watch a lot of film. Like their formations, like what plays are what, and what they're trying to do on a given play is very predictable. So I think that's interesting. I'm going to put the weakness as DeAndre Hopkins. And I don't mean the wide receiver, right? He's absolutely phenomenal wide receiver. And when healthy is probably, if not up there with Devontae Adams, one of the best. The offense I don't think can operate without him. We saw that Rams game where they didn't have Hopkins or Hopkins was limited, and it was a very different game than the first game where Hopkins was available. We saw that with the Panthers too. The Cardinals really fell apart when they didn't have Hopkins, and so I think the offense is incredibly central on him. Without him, this is definitely a first-round exit for the Cardinals.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, this is the first one where I feel comfortable saying the ceiling is not the Super Bowl. I think the ceiling for the Cardinals is the NFC Championship. Just by virtue of now having to go on the road 3 times just to get to the Super Bowl, I think that eventually one of those games you're going to lose one of those games, right?
Inevitably, yeah, you kind of have to.
Yeah, and so the floor, I'm going to say, is the wild card round, of course, because they're the underdog against the Rams, after all. All right, let's move on to the next one. So 49ers, 6th seed. They don't have an easy path, much like the Cardinals. I don't think that they can basically ever really be home unless we have some sort of crazy scenario. But I'm going to say that the 49ers flaw, kind of like with the Rams, is actually Jimmy G. He's played well at times, but like let's look at the Titans game where he just missed critical throws. It's not even resulting in interceptions. He just missed critical throws that he should be making. I think that the 49ers, if they ever get in a spot where they need Jimmy G, kind of like we saw in the Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl, where they need Jimmy G to do something to win them the game, I don't think he's capable of doing that. So I would expect them to lose in that spot.
Yeah, he's not the guy, right? Like the reason that the Niners got to that Super Bowl a couple of years ago was mainly on the back of that defense and the run game. Like Jimmy G is not the guy that's going to, lead your team and put the team on his back and carry him to the Super Bowl. He's just not that kind of player.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan told you that much when he drafted Trey Lance.
Yeah.
So I think that the 49ers, like the Cardinals, they can totally make it to the divisional round, but I'm going to put their ceiling, like, likely speaking, if they got to the divisional round, short of the Eagles getting the upset, they play at Lambeau. I'm putting their ceiling into the divisional round.
Yeah, I think something like that.
And of course, floor, as with most of these wildcard teams, is the wildcard round.
Wildcard round.
So the Eagles' path to the Super Bowl doesn't exist, right? Like they're the 7th seed. So. They're going to be on the road every single game, no matter what. I'm going to say that their weakness, though, is their defense. They rank 25th by DVOA, which isn't horrendous, but let's look at the offenses you're going up against. Like you are potentially going up against the Rams. You are guaranteed to go up against the Buccaneers and the Packers. That's just not going to happen. Like, I'm sorry, those offenses are just too good.
Yeah, absolutely no way. You're right.
So then how about the Titans? You did the AFC side of the ball.
I did.
Bracket, I should say. So why don't you give us what you thought of the AFC bracket?
Well, if we're looking at the AFC, you have my favorite, the Titans. All right, so this team, their path to the Super Bowl, so they're likely going to have to face the Patriots or the Bengals in the divisional round. That shouldn't be too much of an issue for them either way. I'm not too worried about either of those teams. They are most likely then going to have to face the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, which could be tough, but I do think that the Titans' path is honestly not looking that bad. It's really just the Chiefs is the only thing they have to worry about. Their weakness, after looking at all of their rankings, this is an extremely strong team in all areas except for one, really, and it's just their pass defense. They rank 25th in pass yards allowed, and they are 30th in pass attempts against. So teams know that this is not exactly an elite secondary. They're throwing at them quite a lot. So I do think that it's working, and we could see, for example, the Chiefs. This is why they have to worry about them so much, because Patrick Mahomes, we all know he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. We all know he has weapons. And, that could be really tough for this team, even though they are so strong in every other area. It only takes one spot to be weakened. So I do think that their ceiling is a Super Bowl, of course. I think they most likely get there, and their floor is technically the divisional round. They could lose, but I do think that the AFC Championship is more realistically their floor.
If the Titans have to play the Bengals, I mean, that could be a huge upset. That would not be, I guess, a shocker looking at that weakness. If that's your weakness, the Bengals are primed to take advantage of it.
That is entirely true.
So let's move on to the next team. That's the Chiefs at the 2nd seed. Yep. What were your thoughts on them?
So let's see. Starting with the Steelers, who they play in the wild card. Then they play either the Bills or the Bengals in the second round. All of that should be fairly easy, I think, for this team. The only real struggle could be the AFC Championship, where they, of course, likely play the Titans. I do think that their weakness is something that we've been seeing all year. It's just turnovers, and they have seemed to have fixed that quite a bit in the back weeks of the year. The first weeks were obviously really, really bad, but
very bad.
If Mahomes and this offense revert to their ways of turning the ball over, throwing picks, fumbling, all that, I mean, against these extremely good teams who are going to be able to take advantage of that, that could be a death sentence for you,
Yeah,
especially
no,
against
for
a team
sure.
like the Titans. So I think their ceiling, Super Bowl, of course. They are the second most likely team to get there on the AFC side for me. They have so much talent. They know how to get to the big game. They have a lot of the experience, and their their out, I think, is the divisional round. Yes, you can lose on the wild card to the
Highly
Steelers,
unlikely.
but I think that at the very worst, they make it to divisional round.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the third seed, the Bills. This was a team
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people had pegged early on in the season as the one seed in the AFC, and of course, they ended up losing a very close game to the Titans. That's kind of why they're in the third seed. So, what do you make of the Bills?
I think they have an extremely difficult road to the Super Bowl. So, first round, Patriots. Now, just because the Patriots are a lower seed, I do not think that they are a team that you should discount. You should never discount Belichick, ever. The Patriots defense is second in league by lineup standards, which measures pretty much everything. So I do think that is a phenomenal team that could very well cause a huge upset. Second round, likely the Chiefs. That's a team that you don't want to meet at any point in the playoffs, especially this early. Third round, let's say that they beat the Patriots. Let's say they beat the Chiefs somehow. They then have to play likely the Titans in the AFC Championship. So I think this is the toughest schedule of any AFC team really that has to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, the Bills do not have it easy by any means, especially with that opening. I think that if you're the Bills, you were definitely hoping that the Raiders would lose because that would
Mhm.
mean I think you wouldn't have to play the Patriots. So I think that they were like, please, please,
Yep.
God,
And
please.
then it didn't happen.
No, it did not.
So their big weakness so far is pretty much like the Chiefs. It's turnovers. They're 25th in interceptions, 26th in total turnovers. That doesn't bode well
Wow.
for you against teams that are, good and will take advantage of that, just like the Chiefs. So I think that the divisional round for them is their ceiling. As good as this team is, I don't think they can make it past the Chiefs. If they do, I
Wow.
don't think they make it past the Titans. So their floor is the wild card round. I can very realistically see an immediate out to the Patriots.
Oh yeah, there's no reason that they can't
Hmm.
absolutely lose to the Patriots.
So as good as that team is, I think that they can't make it that far just based off of who they play.
Yeah. All right, let's take it to the last division champion. That would be the Bengals. The Bengals opened up against the Raiders. What were your thoughts looking at the Bengals?
If they make it all the way, they will likely have to play the Chiefs or Titans. And it's either going to be, Chiefs divisional Titans championship or Titans divisional Chiefs championship, some variation of it. It's going to be extremely tough for them. Their weakness is the secondary, and they are bottom 10 in the
Yeah.
league in pass attempts against, yards allowed, and completions allowed, which, the Chiefs, again, we've been going back to this so many times. They are going to throw the ball a tremendous amount of times. The Titans, maybe they'll throw it a little bit less, so you could get lucky there. But Derrick Henry, I mean, you can't. How often can you stop him, really? And if he gets into your secondary, he's probably going to run through them because they're not very good at tackling either. So I think that their ceiling is divisional round. Again, this team is so much better than it was last year. And I expect them to continue to get better. But as of right now, I think this is a fair ceiling for them. Maybe next year, their ceiling is maybe the championship round or even higher. Their low is obviously the wild card exit to the Raiders. I don't think it's very likely, but it is entirely possible.
Yeah, no, for that team, the Bengals, this is one heck of a year. I
Hmm.
don't think anybody expected them to be in the AFC North
No,
Championship
absolutely
or
not.
champion, I should say. Yeah, I mean, it's like we saw with that Chiefs Bengals game. That's why it was kind of a fun game that weekend, and probably one of the better games that weekend, is because both of those teams couldn't stop the pass at all. So yeah, I definitely think that's a pretty big Achilles heel, and I think that if you're the Chiefs and you do end up facing the Bengals again, you're gonna beat them. You're gonna figure them out the second time. It's
Hmm.
very hard to beat good teams twice.
Yep.
All right, so let's go to the Raiders. They would be obviously the Bengals' opponents.
Yep.
What's the scouting report?
This one's pretty tough because, like the Bengals, they're likely going to have to play the Chiefs and Titans in back-to-back rounds. Whichever one it is, they'll likely have to play them. And this is a significantly worse team. Their weakness, I kind of just put everything because looking at their total evaluation, they are 21st in the NFL in offense and 26th overall in defense. How this team even made the playoffs is beyond me. I think they should be voted out by some committee of some kind. They don't deserve to be here. There's
Everyone wanted the Chargers. I don't think anybody wanted to
no,
see the
I wanted the
Raiders.
Chargers. I think that'd be awesome. So I actually have their ceiling and their floor is the exact same thing, the wild card round. I think that they're going to get booted immediately. I don't think there's really much of a chance they make it that far.
Yeah, so the ceiling is the roof. I guess it'd be the ceiling is the floor.
Yep.
Okay, so Patriots they take on the Bills.
Hmm.
I can't wait. I think it's my favorite game this weekend on the AFC side.
Absolutely, I agree. If they were able to knock out the Bills round one, I think that'd be a huge momentum boost for them. This team will likely face the Titans in the second round, probably Chiefs in the championship at that point if they make it that far. Their weakness is Mac Jones. Yes, he's been great for a rookie. He's been phenomenal for a rookie. I think he wins a rookie award, but he is playing with the best of the best now, except for the Raiders. They don't count. Every other team is going to be able to kind of force that rookie mentality of like, I can make this throw because I can, he just came out of college where he was able to make every throw. And this year he's had a phenomenal year. He's been able to make a lot of throws. But now you're playing those really, really good teams where those windows every week they get a little bit smaller and eventually he will mess up. So, yes, the Patriots defense is phenomenal. And I think that they can carry him a long way. But I do think that their ceiling is the divisional round. Unless the Steelers win, the Patriots will have to play the Titans in the divisional round. And it's just a bit too much for Mac, and I think that they're a bit too explosive for this Patriots defense to stop. Their floor is going to be the wild card exit to the Bills. It seems like they will probably lose immediately in the wild card, but you never know. I'm never going to bet against Bill Belichick in the first round of the playoffs. I don't think so. I think that is their floor, but honestly, divisional round, if they make it, is their ceiling.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, let's go to the last one, and then we'll call it a day on the show. So we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They obviously take on the Chiefs, as we kind of talked about. Massive underdogs. I think the biggest underdogs of the weekend. Do they have a path to the Super Bowl? Like, is it fair to say that they, because of that offense, they don't have a path?
Yeah, I think after looking through everything, they don't have a path. If they beat the Chiefs somehow, then they immediately go play the Titans in the divisional round, no matter who wins or loses. Pulling that off in back-to-back weeks would be miraculous. I don't think there's anything that would be more surprising over the course of this year that would top that. Their weakness, I know it's his retirement year. I respect him, yada, yada. It's Big Ben. He's a big reason why this offense has been so stagnant and inefficient. They just can't really get anything going because the old man can't run and he can't throw very far either. So the king of 5-yard checkdowns, which is pretty much what they had him do in that last game, he threw it like 50 times. All of them were like within 7 yards. So I do think that their ceiling is the wild card exit. I also think their floor is the wild card exit. So as as bad as this team is, I just can't see them beating the 2 seed Chiefs in the first round.
Yeah, no, I can't either. I definitely think it'll be the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
But that's our show, everybody. Thanks for checking us out. We'll be here next weekend, and when we are, the rest of this is going to have been, well, not the rest of it, but we'll have more of the round filled in, and we'll be able to break down more of the matchups as we come a little bit closer to the Super Bowl. I'm super excited for this weekend. If you had to, like, let's pick favorite game of the playoffs for this round right now. If you had to pick a favorite game.
Oh, my favorite game. I gotta go either Bills Patriots or Cowboys Niners.
I think as much as I like the Bills Patriots, I think I'm more intrigued by Cowboys 49ers because just because I'm so fascinated by if that offense will work or not. I have a Cowboys fan, Campbell Jones, he's been on before. He's a close friend of both Tony and I know he believes that the Cowboys have been kind of saving some of their, they still have a few cards up their sleeve and that they're going to pull them out against the 49ers if they get in tough jam. But yep. I don't know. I don't feel that confident as he does in this Cowboys offense.
Yeah. And I will say one little pat on the back for Tom and I. Before the season started, when we were looking at all of these teams, we actually said that we can realistically see 3 NFC West teams in the playoffs. And here we are. Rams, Cardinals, Niners have all made it in. So props to us. We predicted it right. So I think Tom has just had some Wi-Fi errors. So I'm going to go ahead and end the show. Thank you guys for listening. Sorry we were gone for so long. And we will be back next week.